Welcome back to Moose FM. How you doing, friend?
I'm doing really well, thank you. And thanks for that intro, calling me a superstar. I don't feel that way at all. I'm a diaper changing dad. I've got a little 1 year old, and so it's very nice of you to call me a superstar. Yet I feel very much like just a good old Canadian dad.
Right. Coming home, not that you're not humble, but coming home sure humbles you and brings you back to earth, I guess, hey, after a tour or something.
Oh my God, I got a story to tell you. My grandpa bear, who is one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, played this big festival that I'm sure you've heard of called the Big Valley Jamboree down in Camrose, Alberta.
Hmm.
And I was able to open for Brooks and Dunn. This is a couple of years ago. And we drove the band and the crew on our bus back to the farm so that we could have a couple of days of fun and hillbilly fun out there on the ranch. And so I slept in my childhood bed at our home, and my grandpa woke me up at 6 in the morning, and I had just gotten back to the farm at 3 in the morning, and we partied all night on the bus.
Yeah.
We just had the show of a lifetime. And he knocks on the door, and I said, "Grandpa, what are you doing? Like, go away! Like, I need some sleep here." I said, "Don't you realize they just played the Big Valley Jamboree and everything?" And my grandpa says, "Hey, wake up, you ain't no country star on the farm." And he handed me a pitchfork, and I had to go shovel you know what and go chase cattle at 6:30.
Love it. Love family. Family, they don't care. They don't care that you.
Yeah, no, they don't. You could win a CCMA or a Juno award, and grandpa still has, heifers to check and fence to fix. So I'm very, very grateful that I actually grew up in that way. I love my upbringing. I love Canada. I love the West. I'm very, very grateful that I've had the life that I've had so far.
Absolutely. Well, that brings us to why you're here today. I mean, this is a very epic, ambitious project that you've kind of put forward here. Essentially, it's a 4 album series that you're going to be releasing over the next little while. The first one of it, it's all called the Compass Project, and the first one called the South Album came out on Friday. Tell me a bit about this whole project, Brett. Where did the idea for this come from? Why did you decide to say, I'm going to do this big series rather than just putting out, 4 albums?
Oh, buddy, you know what? I don't really know the answer to some of those questions because sometimes my brain is just so crazy that you come up with an idea at a random time of the day or the night, or a lot of ideas come up when I'm, flying. And, I thought about this record for years and this concept for a package for years. I remember looking back through a notebook in the year 2013, so 10 years ago, that I wanted to do an album that had to do with a compass, that had to do with northeast, southwest, and what did each direction of the compass and needle pointing, what would it represent? But finally, now a decade later, I was really able to figure out how to conceptualize the entire package. And essentially, the Compass Project is, as you described, 4 albums that will come out this year: North, East, South, and West. The first album, which is the South album, it is out now, and it is your straight ahead, hit driven, radio driven, country album that is a tip of my hat to obviously the great stories of Canada, but also my love for Nashville in the United States. So that album paired with the North album, the East album, the West album. West is obviously country and Western, super country. This is like Yellowstone written into an entire album.
Hmm.
Then you've got the East album, which is all singer songwriter songs that I'm very proud of, very acoustic. And then the North album is an all, get this, greatest hits album. And I'm very proud of that because all of my songs, like Started With a Song or Airwaves or Anthem or Make a Life Not a Living, I've recorded these songs over the years live and live versions of them. So Make a Life Not a Living could be live from Prince George. Airwaves could be live from the Calgary Stampede. Drink About Me could be live from the George Street Festival in Newfoundland. So a lot of great memories are wrapped up and encompassed, pardon the pun, in the North Records. So it's the most extraordinary project of my life. There's no denying that.
Oh, encompassed. Well done. I'm going to play a rim shot for you there for that one.
Yeah, thank you.
So as you said, North album's going to be kind of a greatest hits, but live, kind of greatest hits of your live performances. I think I caught there, right? South album, your bread and
Exactly.
butter. That's out now. These other two albums really intrigue me. So West, is it like you've written new songs that are very more traditional country kind of type things, or are you kind of covering the ones that inspired you, inspired your family, maybe inspired kind of generations of your family who've liked country music?
You know what? It's the West album is really a mixture of both. So I do have some really great covers that shaped me as an artist, as an entertainer. I love Glenn Campbell. His song "Wichita Lineman" is one of my favorite songs of all time. Nobody writes songs like that anymore and records songs like that anymore. So I recorded that song. I also did Charlie Rich "Behind Closed Doors," which is one of my favorite songs to play on the piano, as I've started to play piano over the last couple of years. But I did write a lot of new material, all about the Western values, all about the real country values, and the fun that we have out here. I wrote a song about playing cards. It's called the Crib Song. It's my favorite game in the world. I wrote a song about poker called Queen on the River. I wrote a song called Black Eyed Susans, which is a haunting tale of a rundown old house on our property and
Wow.
what could have gone on in that generation. I wrote a song called Legacy that talks about our family farm and how over 100 years it's been through, I would actually say, I mean, certainly ups and downs, but maybe a lot more downs than ups, and the challenges that happen when greed gets in the way between family members. So that's Legacy. But then there's a lot of fun elements to this record. A song I wrote called Missin' You in San Antone, which is a Western swing song I wrote years ago when I was actually down in San Antonio for an event. And I thought, nobody's writing Western swing music anymore in the 2020s. So I'm going to do it. So I wrote a song called Missing You in San Antonio, and my band just loved it. We recorded it. We actually dressed up in the studio with bolo ties. We tucked our jeans and our cowboy boots, and we decided, okay, if this was like 1952, what would we dress? What would we dress like? What would we wear? How would we act? So we were smoking darts and drinking whiskey, and we went into the studio and pretended like it was 1955. It was awesome.
I love it. I love it. And that brings us to this East album, which you said is a lot more singer songwriter and acoustic. Again, is this kind of re records of some of the stuff you've put out before? Is it new stuff? Is it, again, covers of songs that inspired you? Kind of more from that singer songwriter vein, that kind of acoustic vein.
It's definitely the singer songwriter acoustic vein, and I think if we're going to touch on the songwriters, it was very important for me to write songs for specifically for this record. Or actually, I'll flip it. I didn't write songs specifically for this record. I just had so many songs that would never see the light of day because they're not commercial. So we decided to make an album about all of those songs that really talk about love, talk about the land, talk about my heart. So a lot of songs I wrote when I was a lot younger and just dating my wife Cecilia, and how we didn't get a lot of support in the early days. So a lot of Romeo and Juliet themes, but also understanding that some of my favorite songwriters are from the East Coast, and they always have this touch or this flair for the ocean. They always have this touch and this flair for the land. And so I really wanted to bring that in to the fold when I was recording this project. And one of my favorite songs of the last 5 years is a cover. It's a song by a band called Hollow Coves, and they have a song called
Energetic
Coastline.
country
If you
could
haven't
sound
heard it, you
like
can check it out obviously on Apple Music and Spotify. That's the only cover on that record. Is I decided to do that because I think it's the perfect way to exemplify what I was really going for with the East record.
Wow, this is just such a neat kind of all around project. Lots of fresh material, as you said. You got the greatest hits, but not your standard greatest hits because it's like live greatest hits, which is also very cool. One last question for you about this, Brett. You mentioned kind of being in the recording studio for all this. Was this done like in a big chunk all at once where you recorded this, recorded that? Or is this kind of, you've been in and out of the studio over the past few years, kind of putting this together and kind of working on it?
You know what? It was only 1 year that we were putting this together. Conceptually, I've been thinking about this for a decade.
Yeah.
But what we did is, for the East album, we knew the approach that we needed to take. So my producers, who are also my band members, Justin Cutting and Spencer Cheen, the two of them, we selected the right instrumentation. We found the right time in our schedule where we weren't busy. We didn't have anything or anybody knocking on our door, we could get the sounds right for the East record. The South album, we did that exactly like we've made every other album before, because that's a formula that works for us, and it works very well. Got the boys in the studio. We had a couple days. We had our songs selected. We threw back a couple cocktails. We played in the evening so that we could have that energy and that vibe.
Yeah.
And we had the South album really complete in a couple of days. Then our producer, Bart McKay, took that back to his studio in Saskatoon, where he continued on with that project. The North album was recorded, yes, over years, where we hand selected, Airwaves from 2017 and 321 from 2019 and She Drives Me Crazy from 2021. So we just found our favorite versions. Whereas the West album was very unique. That one, we went into the studio. We needed to make sure that it was in the West, so we recorded in Calgary. And we just decided, how would they have done it in the old days? So we decided we all have to play together. We can't do overdubs, which means, for everybody listening, we can't make a record that is essentially like, hey, if we don't like this take, we just get to redo it. Mm-hmm. If we were going to redo it, we had to redo the entire song. So all of these songs were, I think, recorded in a very genuine and authentic way to bring that energy to that particular record. So yes, to answer your question and come back to it, it was very different, a much different approach to anything I've ever done, to make sure we were true to the process.
Wonderful. Well, I can't wait to hear every part of this, as I said, ambitious 4-album project you got coming out. Again, the Compass Project, the first album, the South album is out now. The rest are going to slowly trickle out through the year as we go. Brett, we got to get to the farm market news, but thank you so much for taking a few minutes to tell us about this excellent new project you're working on.
Oh, thanks, buddy. And thank you very much for having the farm market news. No country stations have that good stuff anymore. So I tip my cowboy hat to you on that. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Brett. Take care.
Have a good